You touched on, Monday 2022 versus 2023. So the way I like to look at some of the stuff I do is every day I'm laying bricks, but maybe once every few months or once a year, I'll stand back and look at the wall and make sure that the wall's looking the way I want it to look.
Yeah.
Do you do any sort of annual planning, quarterly planning, maybe even monthly, weekly in your life?
I do. I have a whiteboard in my office that it has all the quarters on it, and then what I do is I update the quarters as they go by. So my goal is that I always am 4 quarters out. I'm always a year out of here's the things I want to be doing. And then I have my goals on there. And generally the goals are things that maybe some of them are stretch goals, but I know that if I keep doing those inputs every single day, that at the end of the year, those outputs should equate to that. And it is interesting. I actually just last week looked at the board and I had a couple goals on there. And 2 of the goals, I had 5 goals on there. 3 of the goals I've reached, 2 of the goals I smashed, and 2 of the goals are within reach. But I haven't really put a ton of time and effort because I haven't stood back and looked at the wall and said, "Oh wait, I forgot I wanted that thing on the wall too." But it is helpful, as you know. There's a lot of things from a day-to-day perspective sometimes that just don't go your way, and it's really helpful to be able to look back and see like how far have I actually come in the past 12 months.
Well, first of all, congratulations on hitting most of those goals. Would you say it's a result of your hard work and perseverance and really coming into your own as an entrepreneur, or maybe you were not being as aggressive with the goals as you might have been when you had goals in sports? And just for context for the listeners, how long have you been an entrepreneur now, and when did you found Moment?
Yeah, so we founded the business 2.5 years ago now, and to answer your other question, for me, ultimately reaching those goals has just been showing up every single day. But it took me a while to realize what I needed to do when I was showing up. One of the biggest struggles for me as an entrepreneur when I first started was you have so much freedom. And that can be a great thing. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people start businesses, because they want the freedom. It's the thing that I love the most about the business. But on the flip side of that, when you show up, there's nobody telling you what to do. And a lot of times we can fall into this trap of feeling busy, but really we're not doing anything that's going to truly move the needle. So I'd actually kick that back to you. I'd love to hear from you in your journey as you think about everything that you've accomplished along the way. How have you come to realize what are the things I really should be doing? Or the cliche thing would be like the highest leverage activities inside my business?
So I started off doing everything, single man shop for the first 2 years. And I got used to, or maybe it was kind of the way I grew up as well, just feeling like you really put in a hard day of work when you're actually working, doing things, making things happen and seeing the results of it. So it wasn't until 8 years into my entrepreneurial journey that I truly started to focus on delegation and trying to do the high leverage activities. So about 2 years ago, I started to put the plan in motion to remove myself from the day-to-day as much as I possibly can and to focus on the things that I feel that I'm best at, which is strategy, kind of high level thinking about the organization, how we can improve or where the future growth may be. So the way I measure it now is the impact it has to the NOI or the bottom line. Because if I don't think about it through that lens, I can very easily find myself getting stuck or hung up on, let's say, a $10 bill, and then possibly missing a $20,000 opportunity to reduce costs. So that's the way that I'm looking at it today, but definitely in the beginning, it wasn't. It sounds like you've had that I guess the right way of thinking is maybe not the right way to put it, but the way that I feel is the right way of thinking about your company and entrepreneurship from the beginning. Was that a result of just being deliberate about how you started the company, or some of your growth along the way? Because it's only been 2.5 years. It took me 8 years to figure that out.
One thing that baseball gave me that I'm super grateful for is it just gave me a lot of life experiences at a really young age. It helped me grow up really fast. I mean, I think you nailed it. I was sinking or swimming at 18 years old when a lot of my friends were off pledging at a fraternity. And I was doing things that there was no backstop. There was nobody there saying like, "Hey, Jacob," and giving me a pat on the butt. It was like, you either perform or we're going to send you down or we're going to get rid of you. There's no like 90-day improvement plan. It's like you either do the job we signed you for or we're going to find somebody else the next year. So for me, that experience, I'm so grateful that I had so much of that life experience. I think it's helped transition into business. But from a big picture standpoint, the thing that it's helped me the most with is just understanding that whether it's business, whether it's sports, whether it's relationships, it's all this constant journey. There's really no end destination, at least for me. It's understanding that at each stage of the journey, there's going to be things that I enjoy doing. There's going to be things that I don't enjoy doing. And there's always going to be new struggles. There's always going to be new successes, but we have to embrace the journey. And for me, 2.5 years as an entrepreneur, I'm so thankful of like all the experiences I've had. And I look back at some of the things that, man, look at all those mistakes I made. But the reality is like, sometimes you got to make the mistakes to learn along the way.
The MLB career not turning out the way you wanted it to, that wasn't due to any mistakes on your part, correct? It was just kind of the way it ended up working out due to no fault of your own or anyone else's?
That's a good question. It's a loaded question. If I had to go back and do it over again with the mindset that I have today, would the results have been different? Potentially. I felt like I put in all the work I could have put in. The results were not what I was hoping they would have been when I first started out in my baseball journey. I mean, I played 11 years professionally. I played parts of 8 seasons in the big league. So not by any stretch a complete failure, but the reality is, as a top 10 pick, and I write about this online, that I feel like I had a bottom 20% career outcome. Because the reality as a top 10 pick is like you're expected to be a pretty consistent big leaguer. Maybe you make a couple all-star teams, a couple outlier scenarios where you like end up in like Hall of Fame type territory, right? If you look at the people that got drafted around me, some of them have had really long, prolonged success in the big leagues. But to answer your question, I don't think there's anything that I look at it as I did the work. There's things that I know now that if I would have known then, maybe change some of the paths that I went down. And maybe I'm able to make adjustments quicker than I was as an 18, 22, 25-year-old kid.
And do you mean just like in terms of the way you were practicing, for example, or maybe even in-game decisions?
More so on the mental side of the game and the mental side of life in general, understanding how to bounce back from failure when it's such public failure. It's very hard as an athlete to be able to tell anybody else about it because it's when you fail, you might fail in front of 40,000 people and you're expected to show up the next day and be working hard. And it's one thing to put the work in, but it's one thing to be emotionally back engaged and emotionally have cleared the system, so to speak, to be ready to perform the following time you're out there. It's a very challenging thing to do at any age, but especially as a 20-something-year-old that's frankly trying to figure out who they are as a person and who they're trying to figure out life too.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine. And that's incredible pressure to have on you.